What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to another video. So today we're going to be mostly focused on the E30 here. In some of the last few videos we worked on the G80 as well as my brother's car and so on. So today we really got to get this project back up and out of the garage, at least to the point where it's drivable. And to get to that point, there's a lot of stuff that we need to do. For today's video, we're mostly going to be focused on the front end of the car. We're going to go ahead and prep these fender areas. We're going to paint them black with the same undercoating spray. Just make them look a little bit nicer while we don't have fenders. That way we never have any issues later on down the line. We're also going to be installing some new tail lights. So these are the stock tail lights that we have currently in the car. I got a new set sitting somewhere in the garage here, so we'll go ahead and install those. And then we have my old fenders sitting right here, but these ones, as you can tell, they're pretty rusted out from the bottom there. The guy who did the rust repair kind of just filled it with foam and thought I wouldn't notice. So we're honestly gonna go ahead and just trash these. We do got a new set of fenders, so we're gonna have to go pick those up today too. So yeah, those are kind of the main three objectives for today. We're gonna slowly start tackling this car one by one so that I don't get overwhelmed. But let's go ahead and start with the front, get that thing nice cleaned up, painted, and then we'll move on to the taillights. So to kick this off, I'm not gonna do anything too crazy. I'm just gonna spray it down with some degreaser, let that sit for a few minutes, and then come back and hit it with maybe a Scotch-Brite pad and anything else that I can think of. Let that sit for a second here. To make the job just a tad bit easier, I'm just gonna use this drill attachment on this. I'm not sure if this is just road grime built up over the years or if this is like some type of coating that they have on there, but it's definitely not clean. I hope you guys can see the grime coming off this thing. But yeah, now I'm confused. I don't know if it's supposed to look like that or the black was like an undercoating spray. I really can't tell, but we obviously need to clean this a bit more. As you can see, we got majority of all that grime and stuff off both sides of the fenders or the inner fenders. I got it cleaned up enough to the point where I rubbed a clean microfiber against it. I wasn't getting any dirt on the microfiber. So the rest of it might just be caked on there a little bit too much, but it's a lot better than it was before. So I think this should be good for us to do like a undercoating spray on it, but we'll leave it here for the time being. We'll let it dry up entirely, and then we'll hit it with some acetone and so on, and then from there spray it. In the meantime, let's go ahead and get these tail lights out. And if you guys know E30s, you guys are aware of the MHW style tail lights, and that's what these are right here. So as you can see, they're pretty different from a stock tail light set. So this is one I had laying around the house, and these are in a lot worse condition than the ones I have on the car, which are pretty nice, honestly. So we're gonna go ahead and install these, see how they look on the car. I think they're gonna look great. So at first glance, that looks a lot nicer. I really like how these look. And again, we still have our stock taillights. We're not gonna be selling them. We're not gonna be getting rid of them. So we still have them just in case we ever decide to switch back. But for the time being, I'm really liking these. Let me go ahead and plug in all the backing plates and the bulbs to it, and we'll go ahead and test it out, see how they look. Let me go ahead and do the brake. So that should be the brake light. So looks like some of the bulbs might not be working. I'm not sure what's exactly going on. They were working when I dropped the car off. So maybe I just need to replace the bulbs. Looks like the turn signal on the right side of the vehicle is not running, and then the brake light on the left side of the vehicle is not running. So something's going on here. I'm not sure exactly what that is. I'm not gonna spend too much time on that. I just wanted them installed today, so we know they look nice when they're not on. So we'll go ahead and fix that on another day. I think now at least we should be able to go ahead and paint the fronts. They should be dry. It's been about an hour, so we'll go ahead and do that real quick and go pick up the fenders. Got the entire front end of the E30 taped up. Both sides, just so we don't get any steelite everywhere else. And today we're actually using that Very, very expensive paint. This is like 30-40 bucks a can, but the stuff finishes great, looks great, and it's super protective, and it's steel, and it's like a well-through primer too, so if anything ever needs to get situated, it's you can well through it as well, so which is a nice plus. So now just gonna go ahead and shake this thing up and start spraying. All right, so as you guys can see, we got our first coat on there. This looks a lot nicer than I thought it would. It's drying out right at the bottom here, and it's a very flat kind of finish, which is exactly what I wanted. I don't want anything gloss, and it's honestly coming out very, very smooth. So I think we're just gonna do one extra coat on this side, and then did the same thing here. So I think it's just gonna need one extra coat just to make it a little more durable, but in terms of coverage, we're good to go. And that's the end product. And you're probably thinking, Nabil, that looks hideous, but again, this wasn't really for looks. It does look nicer up front, but there's a hard line right there now. But this was mostly for protection and just making sure that we don't have any issues down the line, right? Because we plan on keeping this car forever, and we don't want any new rust spots ever showing up again. So we're taking as many precautions as possible. And we got this thing pretty well coated. Now there is a few, like I said, a hard line right there. We'll deal with that when it comes time to get this car painted, because that is a seam that's gonna show through the gaps. But again, that's gonna be a problem for another day. I mentioned it in the beginning of the video, but we got some new fenders for the E30. The only downside is they're not the same color, but they are in good condition. So one is red, this one looks pretty beat in terms of paint, but there's no dings or dents, which is great. Then you got one more in this beige tan color. But again, great in terms of metal work, no dings or dents, just got a little bit of scratches and stuff like that, but nothing we can't fix. And we don't want this rusting out any more than it already is, so I'm just gonna take this wheel right here, clean it up a little bit, prime it with the same stuff that we used on the fenders or the inner fenders, and get this looking at least a little bit better. Doing that, you'll be happy to know that I actually did spend a little bit more time cleaning this up a little bit more, just making it not look as bad and such a hard cutoff line. So what I ended up doing was taping farther into the door itself and then paint it there, and then similarly on this side. So it looks a lot better now, and the entire front end looks black. And then in terms of the fender here, as you guys can see, this is the new fender. Again, there's not many small dents. The only area that this one needs a little bit of work on is it looks like the person who had it before me, his tire got caught on this inner fender, but we'll just cut this out or flush it inwards and just basically roll the fender. Start removing all the interior pieces from around the garage and getting them out so we can reinstall them. I do have some more seat brackets that I bought for reinstallation of the seats. I honestly wasn't too much of a fan of the garagistic seat brackets that they had here, so we're gonna get some new Momo seat brackets inside. We'll get the seats back in, get all the rest of the interior back in, and getting this thing looking a little bit nicer, because we do have some plans for this car at the end of the month, which we need it for. And do that, and then from there we'll start working on the rest of the underside of the car: suspension, coilovers, subframe, bushings, all that kind of stuff. We still got all that stuff sitting in the box back here, so got a lot of stuff to do on this car. Just not enough time, honestly. We'll continue tackling it one at a time. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the process and definitely staying tuned with the entire series. We'll just continue pushing out parts, rebuild part 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, until we get this car into a spot where we can drive it at least and not have to worry about it breaking down. And also got to figure out why my taillights aren't working. I have an idea. I think the metal connectors or the metal wires that go from the car harness to the actual taillight themselves are kind of corroded, and they're not the cleanest, so they're not providing a good connection. So I'm going to take out the backing panels and just give them a nice rub down with the Scotch-Brite pad, make sure that that metal is clean so there's a connection, and then honestly get some new bulbs. I think the bulbs might be going bad and there might be some issues with that, and obviously the car is not liking it because all the turn signals on the front of the car are unplugged, so that also could be causing it. Honestly, I kind of miss working on this car. So I'm looking forward to continuing it, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.